Redevelopment Commission to order, please. Stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Jay, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Black. Here. Commissioner Zilli.
Here.
Commissioner Ekdahl.
Here.
Commissioner Munn. Mayor Lynch.
Here.
Dr. Finley.
We have the approval of the minutes from February 24th.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Motion carries. We have the payment of claims for March.
I'll make a motion to approve the claims.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion?
I have a question on bulk salt application at Herbsey for $4,900. Is that the right amount?
Commissioners, I've asked the same question of Holiday. I've asked for some detail, more information on that. If it would be your pleasure, and I don't have an answer. If it would be your pleasure, I would make a recommendation to amend the motion and second to exclude that payment until further clarification can be given on that question.
Well, I will amend my motion to exclude that item.
I'll amend a second.
We have a motion and a second to amend. Is there any further discussion or questions?
No.
Nope.
If not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. We have staff reports.
Yes, Commissioners, thank you. As an update, the Marquette Greenway Trail notice to proceed has been issued, and the city recently submitted our review of 90% plan drawings to SEH. It's our understanding that that project is continuing according to schedule and will soon be out to bid. The Gilbert gas station demolition, that matter is on the agenda for later this afternoon, and I believe we'll be receiving a recommendation from Americo. The Willow Creek Chrisman Road bypass, NDOT has invoiced the Redevelopment Commission for construction in the amount of $567,646.74. That invoice has been forwarded to Clerk Treasurer Rivas for pay. Milestone has been awarded that contract, and it's our understanding that work is set to begin in April. Founders Square and Plaza, we continue to coordinate with Gary Up on outstanding work that was identified, of course, including the spring restoration. So we're getting close to being able to get out there with that work. Central Avenue West Phase 1, notice to proceed has been issued
Notice proceed.
for Central Avenue West.
No, not yet.
Not yet.
We're still in the design phase.
Notice to proceed with Homer.
With
Yes. So, yeah, thank you, Sandy. Notice to proceed for the tree clearing has been issued, and that project is set to begin in fiscal year 2023. The City Hall remodel, that project is progressing. We expect move back into City Hall late April, early May, allowing May to be the soft open month, and would be back to City Hall hosting meetings in June. The department continues to work on a number of project solicitations to be opened at next month's meeting. Following up on a couple items that were awarded last month, the downtown baseball complex, demo of the bleachers is complete, demo of the masonry dugouts is complete. The roofing contractor is indicated that they're ordering materials, and that work will commence upon delivery of those materials. The welcome posters for Founders Square, they were ordered, printed, delivered, and placed on site yesterday on the columns at Founders Square. Next month we expect to be here with quotes for the event posters that will be announcing the different events taking place at Founders Square in the summer of 2022, and we expect that those posters will be installed prior to the Memorial Day weekend. That concludes my report at this time, unless there's any questions.
I have a question. I don't know if we'll go into new business or it's just a question for staff. Our vehicle-friendly raised planter on 20 and Chrisman.
That will be removed.
Okay.
So Mayor and I have been working on this. The department today put together a scope of work. Work requisition will be submitted, if it hasn't been already, to the street department for not demolition, but removal. Our intention is to delicately take apart the stacked stone wall, store it in a yard somewhere for reuse. It's good material. The soil will be moved. We believe that we need to do some over excavation to provide some good base material for what would then be some of the replanted material. As you know, that stone wall planter has a great planter to the south of it, right? There's landscaping to the south. So the effort is really to remove the stone wall planter that has been hit. What are we on? Four times. And we believe that it would probably be in the best interest of the motoring public and as well as ourselves in terms of the aesthetic coming into the community that we go back to an at-grade landscape area and go about, with a strong application of preen, replanting of some of that vegetation and mulch that may be required on that property.
Is there any chance of reusing that stone somewhere else?
There will be. Our intention, Commissioner Zilli, is to stack that stone, place it at the yard here at the Parks Department, and Joe Eberts will be looking at opportunities where that might be able to be reused somewhere else in the community.
If I remember correctly, it was quite expensive.
You need any action from us to help expedite the process?
We're trying to get on Superintendent Reeder's work schedule.
Okay.
And he's going to have to coordinate his workforces to make sure that they can get out there and get to work.
All right, thanks.
Yeah, we just need to be careful that we don't damage those bricks because they were very, very expensive, and so we want to reuse them.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions for staff? We have no old business. We'll move on to new business. 8.1, award 6300 Central Avenue, Fire Station 3. Efflorescence quote criteria?
Yes, we do. It'll be me. Give me a second. Just trying to catch up. Yes, this quote was opened at the October 28th Redevelopment Commission. At the time, staff recommended that that matter be taken under advisement. We, at the time, opened bids, and we received one from Gary in the amount of $98,000. We've reviewed this quote and confirmed with Gary Up that they were still willing to hold the number that was proposed. And it would be staff's recommendation that we do move forward with this project. This project, to remind you, is the effervescence on fire station on the north elevation, east elevation. And what was determined was that what you're seeing expressed on the brick is a structural matter, and that's why it's so expensive. There's a lot more going on than simply a cleaning of that. Water is making its way from the top and then expressing itself through the mortar along on some of those brick elevations. Chief Wilkening has expressed his open willingness to work with us to coordinate with the contractor so that they could get into the station. They will need to be accessing some of this, through the house itself. We're coordinating with that. But again, as a reminder, Gary Up was willing to hold the number, and with all that said, it would be the staff's recommendation to approve the quote from Gary Up Construction in the amount of $98,000 to repair the effervescence at Fire Station number 3, located at 6300 Central Avenue.
I will make a motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? I do have a question, AJ. Is there any further damage to the inside at all, or is that strictly outside? Or
we believe that the damage is exterior only. We have not received a report that it's expressed itself inside the station.
Thank you. If there are no other questions, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you. We have the 2021 annual report by Senator Dalton. Hello, Carl.
Good afternoon, Mayor, members of the Commission.
Good afternoon, Carl.
Before you is the annual report for 2021 for the Redevelopment Commission. It's part of a requirement each year by April 15th. We need to upload kind of a summary of this report into the DLGF Gateway. And so we give you kind of more of a formal report. Also by April 1, we're supposed to have a fiscal report available for the fiscal officers. And so this report can really serve for both purposes. So I'll just quickly kind of go through this report. It's kind of in a PowerPoint format. So page 2 just highlights what we're really reporting on. The commission, first item be the commission members and employees during 2021. Number 2, cash balances, revenues and expenditures for each fund. Number 3, outstanding obligations with amounts paid during 2021. And then we have a list of parcels in the Southport allocation area. That's really an appendix to the report. So page 3 shows the commission members for the year. Page 4 is the commission employees and staff that are providing assistance. Page 5 is the distribution of tax increment in 2021. And you'll note that for the year, we did receive $7,950,241. And then pages 5 through 10 is a listing of all the debt that the commission has outstanding, as well as the payments that were made for the 2021 year. And I think later on the agenda, we're trying to do a refinancing of the economic development revenue bonds from 2013 of Phragmites, and we hope to have that accomplished in April. Page 11 then is just the commission fund balances for 2021 by the various redevelopment commission funds for your information, kind of at a high level. And then page 12 is just a summary of resolutions. And then last month when we did the overlapping taxing unit report, we did have the budget for 2022. So I think that's also included in this report, but I'm not going to go through since we just went over that in February. And then finally is a listing of all the parcels that shows what the gross assessed value, the net assessed value, the base value, and the incremental assessed value. And this parcel list will be a report that gets uploaded to the DLGF gateway. So happy to answer any questions, and if there are none, I think it'd be appropriate for the commission to formally accept the report.
I will make a motion to accept the report.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. AJ, do you have an additional agenda? My computer won't let me open the thing. Okay. No, that's fine. Thank you. Okay, 8.3, we have the approval capture resolution pay 2023.
That's also kind of related to this as well. So each year we have to notify the Porter County Auditor whether we have any excess incremental value to release to all the taxing units. And based on looking at your budget for next year, as well as the amount of debt obligations, we've concluded there is no amount of incremental value to be released. So again, taking formal action, passing this resolution, there'll be a letter that AJ will be providing. We have to do this by June, but we figured might as well get it done now while we're doing this annual report. So AJ will submit the letter along with this signed resolution, and we should be all set for our 2023 budget year. So the appropriate probably to take action on the resolution.
Okay.
Motion to accept the resolution.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to accept the resolution. Are there any discussion? Any questions? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you,
Okay,
Carl.
thank you.
We have the Tiff refunding timetable.
I believe in your packet is a timetable that Ice Miller has kind of put together, updated timetable. We plan to do a ratings call with Standard & Poor's on Tuesday, and we're hopeful that by April 5th they'll have a ratings report. This is in regards to refinancing the Phragmites bonds, and so that first or second week in April we hope to have the underwriters go out and market these bonds, and in a couple weeks later, so by mid to late April, we would have a closing on these bonds. So that's what the timetable is. And I believe, Mayor, there's one other
Rating.
action related to amended bond resolution yet. So happy to answer any questions you may have on the timing for the refinancing of those bonds.
And we do have the refunding A&R bond resolution for 2022 as well.
Yeah, so just real quickly, you originally passed this, I think, a month or two ago. I think it was actually last month, to just get us moving with the project. And we realized at the time there's a couple sections, there were some corrections that needed to be made, kind of very minor. Most of them, like on page 2, making sure we had all of the bonds that the commission has outstanding and the proper amounts. And then I believe under the additional bonds, issuance of additional bonds in section 11, there was a sentence that needed to be cleaned up so that we wouldn't have any issues with the rating agency or potential purchasers. But other than that, the resolution is almost, I believe, in identical form. So just, there are no questions. Again, we need, I'd ask for your formal approval.
I will make a motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All right, thank you,
Thank you,
members of
Carl.
the commission.
Thanks for all you do for us.
Sure.
We have the approval of the 2022 consulting agreement with our real estate professional services. Ernie?
Yes, in your packet, there is a contract for Macaulay Bennett for 2022 services. It would be staff's recommendation to approve, contingent on legal review. I think we all agree that Bill Rathen and his team have done a great job for us.
Great job.
Do we know approximately how much we were able to sell in 2021? Do we have that number?
In 2021?
Yeah.
No, you kind of caught me off guard.
Sorry.
I didn't do those numbers.
It was a lot. I know it was a lot.
Yes, it was parcel A and lot F to join. Okay, that was in 22 though.
It was a-
So parcel A, 700 and roughly 750,000.
Very good.
I'll make a motion to approve upon legal review.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. We have the open quotes of the 2500 Roy Buckley Way of the former Little League Baseball Complex.
We've received 2 quotes. Our first quote is from Garriott Construction Company. Their quote is in the amount of $92,700. And our second quote is from SDI. Their quote is in the amount of $31,815. I would recommend that the Redevelopment Commission award this project to Security Door Inc., SDI, in the amount of $31,815.
I will make a motion to award to SDI
Upon legal review.
upon legal review.
Yeah, I'd like to take a read of those.
Of course, I'm sorry.
Give it a good nighttime reading.
I know, I love sending them to you.
We got to keep Dan in play.
Of course.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to award the bid to SDI for $31,815 based on legal review. Is there any further discussion? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sandy.
Thank you, Sandy.
Open quotes for landscape maintenance.
So item number 881 is Founder Square Landscape Maintenance. We received 1 quote. Quote is from Allen's Landscape here in Portage. The quote from Allen's is for $99,200. The mowing per occurrence is $1,200. There's 28 of those. Staff recommends awarding the quote to Allen's in the amount of $99,200, contingent upon legal review.
I will make a motion to award it to Allen's contingent upon legal review.
Second.
We have motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you.
Go
We
ahead.
have Phragmites control at Southport Road.
Item 882. This is the one quote from Allen's Landscape. The amount is $3,900.
I'll make a motion to approve upon legal review.
Second.
We have motion and a second. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion carries. We have 8.8.3 former Little League Baseball Complex maintenance.
The single quote was from Allen's Landscape. The quote is in the amount for $86,200. Staff recommends awarding the quote in the amount of $86,200 contingent upon legal review.
I will make a motion to award contingent upon legal review.
Second.
We have motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion carries. We have Police Station Founder Square Landscaping. 8.8.4.
Single quote from Allen's Landscape. This quote had 4 alternatives, so I'll read off the initial lump sum and then all the alternatives which would be added onto that. The lump sum amount is $62,650. Alternate 1, which is hydro seeding the field, would be $8,100. Alternate 2, sod installation for the field would be $27,650. Alternate 3, removal of trees from the western side of the police station parking lot, $4,050. And lastly, alternate 4, removal of tree stumps from the north parking lot, $1,200.
Joe, which trees west of the police department? I'm trying to...
So in the
Map
police
that.
department, it's inside the lot, the police lot. There's a stand of trees that are basically in that one bed on the very western edge.
Ah, got it. Okay,
They're like 30 feet tall and they're kind of been overgrowing into the parking lot.
got it.
Staff recommends awarding the quote in the amount of $62,650, contingent upon legal review, and then with the alternates.
Joe, alternate 1 and alternate 2 is a choice between the two? One is seed, one is
Yes,
sod.
that's the choice between those
Do you
two.
have a recommendation as which alternate?
I would recommend sod.
So, Joe, is there a way to water that then? Is there some way to,
We are working on that currently. We're trying to get a plan together for irrigation. So we'll have that quoted out at next month's meeting, hopefully.
okay.
There's a lot of irrigation work to be done out there. There's that. There's irrigation that needs to be repaired over at Founders Square, and additional irrigation lines that need to be run to basically water all the plantings areas that we're going to be installing shortly.
Well, I will make a motion to approve with alternate, was it 2? Yeah, with alternate 2
3.
and 3 and 4, contingent upon legal review.
Second.
I won't repeat that. Is there any further discussion? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Thank you for that, Joe.
8.85?
Oh, right. We have Garrison Center and Burns Parkway
Yep.
/ North Side Trails landscape.
Single quote from Allen's Landscape. This was split into two separate areas, the area of Garrison Center and the area of Burns Parkway Northside Trail, so there's two separate amounts. The first amount for Garrison Center was $11,720. The second area, Burns Parkway Northside Trail, was $30,750. Staff recommends awarding the quote in the amount of $11,720 for Garrison Center and Burns Parkway, $30,750, contingent upon legal review.
I will make a motion to approve contingent upon legal review.
Second.
We have motion and a second. Joe, I have a question for you on that. Is that landscaping on the North Side Trail, or is that just mowing, or what is that?
It's mowing. This is a contract actually from, that we continued from last year. So there's mowing a strip of lawn to clear the right of way, and then there's mulching 1 foot into the sort of naturalized areas of the median, and some herbicide.
Okay. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you, Joe. We have open quotes off-street parking.
These are actually bids, and we received 5 of them. Our first one is from Milestone Contractors North, Inc. So their bid amount is $338,279.10. There is an alternate bid item number 1 is $25,487.88. Our next bid is from eGolf Coates Excavating. Their base bid is in the amount of $274,125.50. And their alternate bid, item number 1, is $17,710.50. Our third bid is from Garriott Construction. Garriott's base bid is for $297,600. And their alternate bid is for $20,520. Our next bid is from FH, hold on, is that what it is? FH Passion, thank you, sorry.
How do you spell
We haven't
that,
dealt with
Sandy?
passion before. Huh?
How do you spell that?
It is P-A-S-C-H-E-N.
Thank you.
Their base bid is for $297,139.22. Their alternate is for $17,212.52. And last but not least is Ruth Riley Construction. Their base bid is for, $327,915.50. And their alternate bid is $16,476.15.
We need a motion to take those bids under advisement, please.
Make a motion to take them under advisement.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Sandy.
Aye. I didn't vote.
You didn't vote?
No, I forgot to say.
We have the approval of a CSK consulting agreement.
Yes, Madam Mayor, members, this item is a kind of a two-part sort of proposal from CSK. You'll recall at last month's meeting, we presented a contract for $1,500 to take a look at the open air pavilion. And I think in some further conversations and deliberations that I think if we're going to have a conversation about the future of the open air pavilion, there might be a value in rolling the conversation about the design of this space and specifically Oakwood Hall and into that conversation so that the decision that's being made by the city is contemplating all of these larger programmable spaces that are for rent. Better understanding or ultimately talking ourselves through where is the best place to make that ultimate investment. And so this contract here with CSK allows CSK to talk us through the entirety of that decision as a community. It'd be staff's recommendation to approve CSK's letter proposal dated March 18th of 2022 in the amount of $1,500.
I'll make the motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. We have the award of 5439 Central Avenue demo.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Commissioners. John Blasky with American Engineering. We put together bid specifications for the demolition and the underground storage tank closure at 5439 Central. There are 2 bid categories. The first bid category, we received 2 bids, which were open at a public meeting, and we reviewed the bids, and we are recommending the award go to GE Marshall of Valparaiso, Indiana, for bid number 1 in the amount of $107,832, and along with that, unit price 1, which is in the event we find petroleum contaminated soil, it's a cost for disposal, and then unit price number 2 is for sand, backfill, and compaction to replace that soil. I'm recommending award for that. I did bring a copy of the agreement that was reviewed by your counselor. And then bid number 2 was for actually pumping out the contents and cleaning out the sludge that's in the tank so they can be properly disposed of. We received 1 bid on that from OSI Environmental from Maryville, Indiana, and their price was $12,620, and they provided unit price number 3, which was for oily water and rinsate at $1 per gallon, and unit price number 4, which is for sludge to load, haul, and dispose of that at $2 per gallon. I do have allowances in the contract to cover that cost. If it's a little more, then we'll do a change to add. If it's a little less, we'll deduct it out of their contract at the end of the project. So I recommend bid category number 2, we recommend that to OSI Environmental in the amount of $12,620 along with the unit prices. Again, I have the agreement that was prepared and reviewed by your attorney for that work as well.
Did they have any idea how much content was left in there?
Yeah, there's about 20 to 22 inches in each tank.
Okay.
And that's why I calculated out the quantities with the gallons and included that for about 500 gallons of liquid and 100 gallons of sludge.
Okay. I need a motion to approve.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve. Is there any further questions? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Commissioner.
very much.
I will
Thank you.
give Sandy the agreements then for signature later. Thank you.
Thank you. So we have 8.12, former Little League Baseball Complex Downtown Portage Master Plan Presentation. Would that be you, Matt?
I'll give it. I'll give it. That's all right. Thank you, Mayor. Go ahead.
You had it confused. You normally don't present.
I know. I'm here today, so I figured why not. Got all gussied up for the event. No.
So are you putting that up on the screen?
I guess we're going to put that up on the screen. Thank you, Commission members. My name is Matt Rudin. I'm with MCR Partners. I'm here with our teaming guys from HWC Engineering to talk about the former Little League site master plan. And as the people here probably heard, the Redevelopment Commission's progressing with some improvements to be made there and demolition and cleanup and seeding to, I think, make sure that we can play some kind of baseball this year. But this speaks to some of the forward thinking by participants and stakeholders in the effort to what to do with the reuse of the site, to take a comprehensive look at it, to maintain and keep an eye on financial ability of the Redevelopment Commission, also to think through and deliberate on best practices for flexible use of space, for durability, for the ability to transcend all different ages within the community, to attract out people from outside the city of Portage. But really, there was a lot of discussion during our meetings about what about the residents of Portage, and let's keep an eye on that as the offerings at this location and how that would work out. There were some discussions you'll see in the report, options and opportunities that were put forth and put together by the members of the committee. There was no stone unturned when ideas were talked about what should be done with this, and I'm going to range from the obligatory let's not do anything to maybe we should try to build the Taj Mahal. I think what you'll find as we go through this is that with the input from the City of Portage team and the stakeholders, you got a happy medium of usable recreational space for the residents of Portage, flexible space to attract people to Portage, and a site that is going to be sustainable over time. And with that, I'll turn it over to my colleague to really talk about the real work that went into this. One of our great landscape architects, so why don't you dig in?
Well, thank you, Matt. I'm Jonathan Smith. To those who haven't met me, I'm a senior project manager at HWC Engineering in Indianapolis. I think I met a few of you at a few of our discussions, including the stakeholder interviews, and I think at least a handful of you have been in and out of our steering committee as well. So I'll kind of go through this as quickly as I can, but of course at the end we can have a discussion if we'd like to. All right, so so as an introduction to those of you who aren't familiar with the site, the actual site is downtown proper. The site itself is adjacent to a lot of amenities, including the Founders Square, the promenade at Founders Square, the apartments, those type of things. So we kind of see this as something that would draw people downtown. So the focus of all of our discussions were just that, right? So the purpose of the master plan is to provide a vision for the redevelopment of the former Little League site, right? This master plan represents all the recommendations that we got during our process with the stakeholders and the steering committee. All right, so we did have stakeholder interviews on January 20th. We had 19 people that we interviewed as part of this. And we also had 9 steering committee meetings, or nine steering committee members. And we had 2 meetings where we were able to go through concepts and ideas and kind of collaborate on some ideas and options for what we'd like to see happen to this site. Okay. All right, so as part of the interview process, we asked a series of questions. There were 7 of these that were pretty poignant and were meant to kind of get people talking and thinking about the future of this site and kind of how we want to see that kind of shape out. So that first question is there a need for youth baseball in Portage? At the end of the day, yes, right? At the end of its existence, the Little League supported over 300 youth. And within a quick amount of time, Cal Ripken and Babe Ruth were able to get over 167 participants in a matter of a few weeks, I believe. So that was pretty quick. That was in 2021. And for 2022, they're planning to have over 250 participants. So yes, I think we answered the question to that, is baseball is important. So number 2, what would a collaboration between the city and the Parks Department, as well as Cal Ripken and Babe Ruth, look like? So we had a little bit of discussion about that. Right now I think there's some ideas behind transferring the license to the city. Also, Cal Ripken and Babe Ruth would be able to provide all the volunteers, okay? And then the idea is that Parks Department would be on the board for this group, and then the city itself would take on the renovation of the fields as well as maintenance, okay? So number 3 Should youth baseball or other sports uses be considered as a long-term use at this site? I think everybody resoundingly said yes and thought that sports was a really great way to attract people downtown. But they did say that it must have a broad use and appeal beyond just youth baseball, okay? This could include multi-use fields or multi-use places for people to recreate, as well as something that is open all year round, so multi-season, okay? And going back to what we're talking about, baseball is great, but it'd also be nice to have multiple sports be represented here, right? And then we don't want to forget about anybody else outside of youth, so multi-generational was kind of a big topic there as well, okay? All right. So number 4, this is a long part of it, so I apologize, but it's important so you can kind of see where we're going. Would an artificial turf field provide extended season and multi-sport use? So I think everybody has agreed that an artificial turf field, whether it be indoor or outdoor, would definitely help with that, and the opportunity to make it useful in a variety of different settings, whether it be soccer, football, or baseball, was kind of important. And then number 5, what are the needs for indoor recreation? Currently, you all know we have YMCA, Boys and Girls Club, here, Woodland Park. So we kind of got certain sports covered, like basketball, as well as volleyball, those type of things. However, there was a need for training during the winter months and during those saddle seasons for some of the outdoor sports. So that was kind of the takeaway from that. The number 6, what is the opportunity for a signature park? So that one kind of got nixed kind of right away because there is your park downtown, right? You have Founders Square and there's a lot of things going on there, so I don't want to really take away from that. I think the biggest takeaway from that one was that more things could be programmed there to make that more successful and expanded upon. Okay. All right. And then the last question, number 7, what is the opportunity for commercial development at the site? So a lot of people thought commercial would be great. However, there's been some mixed results. So they're okay with potentially finding options and opportunities for that, and we'll kind of talk about that as we go through the plan. But the idea was that it's not just going to be commercial, but there could be some sort of community or civic use on the site. Okay? All right. Now that I spoke long-windedly on that one. All right, so, okay, yeah. All right, so immediately following the stakeholder interviews, we had a series of meetings. We were able to get 2 in before this meeting today with the steering committee and kind of develop an overall plan for this space. And the first steering committee, right out the gate, they echoed everything that the stakeholders were saying. They wanted it to be a multi-use, multiple sports, and multi-seasonal, as well as multi-generational space. So basically, everything to everyone and lots of different opportunities for different sports, okay? Baseball should also still be considered, but there should be a focus on soccer, football, as well as basketball. And then an indoor facility should also be considered. That way you could train during the winter months for a variety of sports, and then the indoor facility should be placed along the main street. That way it continues that downtown feel, and you actually are able to be a part of that streetscape. Okay? All right. Then meeting number 2 kind of just reiterated everything. We kind of developed the plan a little bit further. So everybody was in agreement that an indoor facility was what we wanted to do. But baseball is going to be the primary focus to them. Everybody agreed with that. Turf fields should be designed for a variety of sports. However, baseball should be the primary focus. And then basketball being one of the primary focus for hard courts. Okay. However, both of those should be flexible for a variety of different things. Okay. And then there's also some consideration for a skate park somewhere in the city. So there's some consideration for that as well, and we'll kind of go through that. All right. And then the indoor-outdoor facility should cater to the community and be open for all. And then the indoor facility we talked about again, this is a lot of repetition and everybody's kind of agreeing, and this is the like final summation of that, okay? So we want it to be part of the downtown district, we want it to be for everyone, and we want it to be multi-use. So that's kind of the overall theme here, all right? So the master plan vision. So we took what we heard and we started to develop a vision. So the vision for this site is to provide the community with a multi-use sports facility dedicated to playing, training, and recreation. The facility shall accommodate a variety of sports and be flexible for all members of the community while being open all seasons of the year. So multi-use, multi-sport, multi-season, and multi-generational. So that's kind of the overall vision for the plan. And that's kind of how we took it and kind of ran with that, okay? So this is the overall plan itself. I'm gonna go over it in like 4 different quadrants. I'll just give you a quick rundown of what's going on in it. But we have on the bottom left of the gray area is the indoor facility, okay? Better view. All right, and then moving from bottom left over to right and then up. So from bottom left side, that's the indoor facility. To the right of that is where we're seeing as the community gateway. So that'll be where everybody kind of congregates and kind of views the different sports events that are happening. The number 6 on there is what we're seeing as a hard court and play area. So like a flexible space that might be dedicated to basketball. As you move north, there's that larger field. So that's like our primary field. That would cater to Babe Ruth baseball. However, it could be split into 2 fields to cater to Cal Ripken, okay? And then there you'll see that blue strip that goes all the way around the top and all the way through the site. That's a walking trail. That's a 1/4 mile walking trail that we're able to fit into the site, and that allows you to have more of a passive recreation, but also has some exercise nodes as marked in number 8. I already talked about the community gateway, but number 5 is the secondary turf field, which is more catered to smaller kids in Cal Ripken. All of these would be designed to those standards, and then I'll talk about the overlays as we go into that. So as I mentioned, I'm gonna kind of go over these in 4 different areas. The first section is going to be community gateway and hard court, and then I'm going to go to indoor facility, and then primary turf field and walking trail, and then the last one's going to be secondary turf field. All right, so the community gateway and hard court, we have 2 alternates. So the first one being with this substantial civic gateway. So the area that as you enter off of Main Street will have a variety of different seating areas and different places where you can pull out ping pong tables, cornhole, those type of things, and just have a lot of opportunities. There's also been some discussion on potentially tucking in a small like skate park or small like pocket skate area that could be integrated into that. That's kind of indicated in that that funky triangle shape that's up there. I know there's probably 4 funky triangle shapes, but it's one of those. Just believe me. And then number 2 is the hard court. So we kind of see that as more flexible. Right now it's kind of shown as a basketball court, but we see that as an opportunity to potentially bring out pickleball or other sorts of things like volleyball on different days and kind of have that scheduled and be programmed through the building. Okay. And then to the right of that gray area is just that continuation of that street frontage. So there's an opportunity to bring in some commercial into this space. So there's that opportunity to kind of play off what's happening and all the great things that are happening in the park. A vendor or someone that might potentially build out this could have a restaurant there, right? So you could sit out back there and watch your kids, those type of things. Okay. And then most importantly, I think pedestrian safety we kind of addressed right there in the front along Main Street. There's some discussion on different parking, and we'll get to that at the end. Parking is going to be a little crazy on this site. It's kind of holistically thought of throughout the downtown, so that's what we're going to speak about at the end of this. Let's see here. All right, so here's a view of the first alternate of the gateway. Kind of give you an idea of what's going on. There's some seating, there's some landscape areas, there's some open space for a variety of different activities, and then there's a delineated area for a basketball court. Those are dasher boards around the basketball court to allow for visibility into the basketball court without having large fences up all the time. And whenever there is a game, you could pull a net system up on the ends. And then the dasher boards themselves could be an opportunity for artwork and signage. Okay. All right, alternate B brings in a second court. So that second court will allow you to have additional games like futsal, as well as those other activities. And those activities that were on the plaza itself could be brought into here, like ping pong and cornhole. And then there would be some seating between the two for people to congregate and watch their teammates or family members playing at those games. Okay. And then here's a view of that, just to give you an idea of what that could look like. This one has some artwork on those dasher boards, just to give you an idea of what we're talking about with that. And then here's some character imagery of what we mean when we're talking about dasher boards. So those are the dasher boards, and then if there is the need for a skate plaza or some sort of skate park within there, how can you integrate that within the plaza? I know that's kind of could be a touchy subject or something that could be difficult to integrate into a plaza like that, but it's kind of common now. And then the basketball court, and then that flexible space where you could have that net and goal combo. Okay. And this is kind of what we're thinking within those different plaza spaces. So the seating, the built-in cornhole, you could bring out ping pong tables, the more like artistic signage, just to kind of draw people into the space. Okay. So then the indoor recreational facility, I'm going to talk about this in two different levels. It's 2 floors. So the recreation facility that we have in this design is 65,000 square feet. Okay. So the first floor, there's a main lobby area. We kind of see an opportunity along the street frontage to have a place for a vendor space, potentially sports medicine. There's some storage areas and mechanical areas right adjacent to that. Across the lobby itself, there's a concessions and cafe that's accessible from the outside. So you can see there's that wraparound porch, so to speak, that has a patio. And there's an entrance from the street side plaza, as well as inside the park. And then we have locker rooms and restrooms. The restrooms would be both accessible from inside and outside. So let's say the building's closed, but you want to keep the restrooms open for night games, and you can do that. So that would allow you to kind of secure the inside and not have to worry about any sort of vandalism or anything like that without people being able to watch. So inside of this big area, we have an area set aside that's 200 by 200. So it meets the Calripian standards, so you can actually play a Calripian game within here. Okay. So that is artificial turf, and then on the opposite side of that is a sorry, softball field that's also lined on the field. So the hierarchy here is white is the main sport, and then you go down the line, so it's a yellow to black. So yellow would be the next sport. Yellow would be soccer in this case. Okay. So we have 2 small mini pitches laid out on this field, and then we have a half of a football field laid out in black. So you could essentially program this out for a variety of different training opportunities for a variety of different sports. Okay. Now let's move to the second floor. So that second floor has a suspended track system that hangs up above it. It's hard to kind of visualize since it's flat, but you can kind of see it's open to below right there, so it's kind of a mezzanine level. And then over into the right wing, we have a variety of areas for training. We have some areas dedicated to just that. We also have opportunities for a community room and a amenity terrace that could be on top of that porch that's below. Okay, so you have that overhang. And then there's some opportunities for some assembly or flex space that could be used for like sports teams to kind of gather their thoughts about the next game, those type of things. Okay. All right, and so we did some building form studies, and those are kind of the first ideas that we came up with. So you can kind of get a sense of how large this building really is, right? So the bigger portion of it, where the facility is, where the turf is about 40 feet tall. Okay, and then the other area, we kind of want to bring that scale down just slightly, but also kind of address the street. So we have glass across the face of the street. There'd be doors open so you can go in and out from there. And then tucked under that porch area, you have all those different amenities, including the cafe, as well as the main entrance. Okay. Plus, there would be a drop-off off of Main Street. So where those black, the black ticks, those are bollards. So that would be the drop-off there. So here's some other views. This is from inside the park, bird's eye. And then the one on the bottom is basically coming down Main Street. And then here's some precedent imagery of what we're kind of talking about here, so you can kind of understand. So the idea of forms and massing and those type of things, kind of bringing the scale down of this giant building and kind of bringing it into what we would call your civic architecture in the city, right? So we've thought about a different variety of forms, materials, those type of things. I think there's a lot of brick downtown, right? So kind of bringing that into the building facade, making it permeable with glass, allowing people to see it and feel safe as they pass through it. And maybe bring some color and some kind of cool logo design. I think those type of things could be kind of interesting. Okay, just some additional imagery. So when we're talking about the terrace, that bottom right area is kind of what we're thinking, something like that. So you have some sort of viewing area. You have a different vantage point. There'd be opportunities to host events there, those type of things. On the inside of the facility, this is kind of what we see. So that main lobby assembly area as you enter, so you kind of have that like Main Street feel as you walk through, but inside, right? So you could have brick on the inside to kind of break up the space and make it a little bit different. The turf fields, that's kind of what we're thinking as far as the indoor experience of that. That suspended track system up in the top right. There could be batting cages in a training area, kind of similar to what you see there. And then just that secondary advantage of that suspended track area. So that could offer opportunities for people to view games, those type of things. All right, so the primary turf field. So this one is pretty cool. It has a lot of moving parts, okay? So the main design for this is for Babe Ruth baseball, okay? And then the secondary, you see those two smaller fields that are on the northwest and the southeast. Those could be divided, and you could play two games at the same time by bringing in a temporary fence. That way you could have a 200-foot outfield and be able to play more of a Cal Ripken grade baseball. And then you see the other striping on there. There is an opportunity where we could also stripe that for soccer. Okay, that's a full-size soccer field. And then for each of those baseball fields, in order to make those playable, we have dugouts as well as backstops and all the fences that are required. And then as I spoke before, the blue line that goes around the site is that walking trail, walk-run trail. And then there's some exercise nodes that are tucked in throughout the way as you walk down that path, okay? And then there's opportunities throughout for spectator seating all around the fence itself. One thing I didn't speak about too much was there's going to be an ample buffer that would be provided adjacent to the promenade. That way, make sure we don't have any issues with that. All right, so I was kind of talking about the different configurations, so this kind of gives you a better understanding. So you can kind of see the fences in the one on the left, kind of see how that could kind of play out. We gave you a dimension for how actually deep that field is. So for Babe Ruth, you would have an actual 315-foot right field, but the left field would be over 400 feet. Wait, I said the opposite. It's 300 feet right field, 400 feet left field, sorry. All right, and then on the right side, you can kind of see how you could stripe in different opportunities. So in white, we have baseball, of course, and then yellow, we have soccer. And you can kind of see those black lines that are horizontal. That's a football field. You can kind of see how those can kind of play off of each other. They do this, and here's some examples. So you can kind of see in this top left corner of striping and how that kind of interacts with each other. So you can kind of see how that works. It's not as crazy as you would think, but it allows a lot of flexibility. So when I talk about exercise nodes, that's what I'm talking about. The walking trail could be surfaced and striped. Could also just be an asphalt path. And then whenever you're talking about the different flexibility, we have to think about equipment that's flexible as well. So football and soccer, they make combined goals, which is awesome, and they also make them so they're movable. So storage will be an important thing to talk about as we move forward on this project. Okay. All right, so the secondary field, that's more designed for Cal Ripken specifications. With the 200-foot outfield, has the same thing. It has dugouts, backstop, all that stuff. You can see the blue line going through there. That is the trail kind of meandering around it. There's space for spectator seating around it as well. And it kind of gives you another thing to kind of look at as you're passing by, walking by. Okay. All right, kind of the same thing. We have an opportunity to bring in a smaller, like mini pitch for soccer for the little kids. I think up to 13 years old could fit on the yellow, and then the really junior kids would fit on those little red fields that you see on there on the right side. Okay, so you could stripe it in a way that's usable for a variety of different events and things. Okay. All right, and here's some examples of the kind of that infield and artificial turf, what we envision what the dugouts could look like. I think we all kind of know what a backstop and fence looks like, but there's examples. Okay. All right, and then I kind of alluded to this last slide here. There's been a lot of like discussion about parking. Where do you find parking? How do you deal with parking in a downtown district? Downtown districts, a lot of times think of it in a way where you have the parking in strategic places throughout the downtown, and people use those instead of building giant parking lots that are just adjacent to that one amenity, right? So we did more of a parking study based off of what you have current, what you have planned, okay, and what you're in the middle of building. So kind of identified in some of the blue areas that are kind of like that faint blue are some of the stuff that's kind of happening right now. And then the little green numbers that are in square kind of identify what parking is throughout the downtown, okay? And then we overlaid on top of that 5-minute and 10-minute walking circles, okay? So what we found was, depending on where you enter, so if you enter what we're considering the secondary entrance on the west side or the primary entrance off of Main Street, within 5 minutes, you could get to 300 parking spots, okay? And within 10 minutes, you could get to 250 more parking spots, which is pretty great because for a project of this size, it is recommended based off of your current zoning codes to be in that 250 to 300 spot, like minimum, right? Whoops, sorry. So what we see right now is the way it's planned within the downtown and the way you have it right now is it's totally functional the way it is. If we decided that we wanted to build parking on the site or adjacent to the site, that could be a detriment to future development, okay? So thinking about parking as a whole as you develop the downtown is really important, okay? And then with that, I would just like to say that after like hearing everybody's thoughts and ideas about the downtown and what they would like to see, we're really excited about this opportunity and think this would be a really great like facility for your downtown and would definitely attract people. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. gorgeous.
Do you want me to stay up here?
AJ, do you want Jonathan to stay up there to answer questions?
Well, yeah, yeah, thank you. Thank you so much, and Mayor, thank you. This is, you know, is a important next step that we as commissioners and as a department talked as we, you know, made the decision to acquire the property. We, as a commission, looked for something that was multi-generational, multi-sport. And I believe that all those participated, stakeholders, steering committee members, and then ultimately what was presented by the consultant really took what they heard and I think presented a very strong plan. I guess, Mayor, at this point in time, if there are any questions of the commissioners, Jonathan's available, Mr. Reardon's available, myself. I know we have some of the folks that participated as stakeholders and steering committee members are also here. So, yeah.
Well, I'll ask the multi-million-dollar question. What's the cost on all of this?
$multi-million. You're right.
Let me help out
Yeah.
this one, just before we get into
Yeah,
it.
you're
I mean,
good.
I know we don't have like
So
ballpark
the, you know, as in most planning efforts, there's a guy on the team, like, I shouldn't say that. In our planning efforts, there's always a guy on the team like me that asks that question.
Yeah.
Like, how much does this cost? And are we gonna build a monolithic building that's gonna sit empty that no one's gonna take care of, or are we gonna have structures that people use? And that's where my landscape architect friends like Jonathan come into play, and their creativity blends with my mathematics, and we come up with rational projects that are affordable and sustainable. So we ran the gamut and provided staff with a range of pricing guesstimate options. Like, this is the top end, this is the high end. The other thing that we looked at was there were some early on discussions of I mean, the majority of the cost unrelated to the building, probably in the $3 to $4 million range by the time you're done with all the fields and everything else associated with it. So for obvious reasons, the biggest thing on there and the biggest cost is the building. And there was a real deliberate discussion about not duplicating what is available currently now. And yeah, you know, the committee actively talked about, you know, what's going on at the Y, and what do we have at Woodland Park, and you know, what about other facilities around, and what are other communities doing, and how come no one's given us $20 million to build a building? And we kind of chuckled about that. But the reality is that the Redevelopment Commission has a finite amount of dollars. The Redevelopment Commission has pledged other increment for really straight up municipal uses. When you're talking about funding streets and police and fire and town halls and city halls and all that, I mean, that's what you're doing. This project is different. This is a community amenity. So we provided a range of costs that are in there. And $15 million for the entire thing, soup to nuts, seems to be attainable. I'm gonna caution everybody with that. We didn't bid it out, so I don't know. There could be another COVID. We could get some more rigmarole about I can't get stuff, so there's supply chain issues or whatever the flavor of the day is from my friends in the construction industry that I've been hearing lately. But we can't control pricing, but as of today, that's what we feel pretty comfortable about delivering that. I mean, AJ, you want to add to that?
Yeah, so in the full report at the back end is a cost range offered by the consultant team, and the range from a general site improvements range anywhere between 13 and 18 million, and then if you were to add some of those extra contingencies and things like that, insurance, mobilization insurance, etc. We're likely in that $16 to $22 million range as presented in that master plan.
So once you have all this money, then what would be a timeline to construct something like that once you were able to acquire the financing?
So I can take that one. If you want.
Yes, please.
Unless you had an idea.
I was gonna say as soon as possible, but I do know so there's gonna be some engineering, design, and architecture.
Yeah, so it's a matter of timing, right? So let's say hypothetically it goes out to bid in the fall. You could expect to potentially use it in the fall for fall sports, okay? So a lot of times with these pre-constructed, prefabbed buildings, which would be a portion of that building, a portion of it would be prefabbed and a portion would not. That's what will be the hardest thing to kind of get an idea on how long that's going to be. Steel is kind of a difficult thing right now, kind of understanding that. It's all about timing and getting in right at the right moment. So, but I think it's a deliverable project within a year time frame.
Then I had a question on the turf fields. What is the life expectancy of those if you have continuous play on them?
Yeah. So a typical turf field, if you design it for the sports that we've talked about, you can expect 15 years.
Okay.
If you do the math, and you guys saw this today, the amount of those bids were coming in for 1 year of maintenance. If you add all those up within that 15 years, you're talking about the same thing, right? Or that's more, honestly.
So if I could add to that, Mayor, Portage High School installed turf, I think it was 2005, and I think it was replaced about 13 years later. And we know the use that it received. You think about it, it was soccer, boys and girls, it was football, varsity, junior, freshman, it was the infield for track, and it was used for PE. So in Portage, at least in the local example, with the amount of traffic that received all throughout the day, it was 13 years, I believe, at Portage High School.
So are there any, looking at those fields, and I know that I have a grandson that plays lacrosse. So is that capable if there was lacrosse that came here?
Most definitely.
Or rugby?
Yeah, the size of it is totally appropriate for that. And that's pretty common. Rugby and lacrosse usually tend to fit in within those, and you can stripe it in a way that it would be useful.
I don't know, I'd want to be tackled on that field playing rugby.
Or football, or anything.
I don't mind the football side, the rugby, man. You don't have pads on.
Those are different people.
Yes, they are too.
What's the carrying cost of this? I know we struggle as a city investing in our buildings, maintaining them. We're still maintaining the fire station as a redevelopment commission when that should be on the city roll. We build this, and what's our cost every year for heating it, cooling it, having a full-time staff member there to manage it, upgrades, all that kind of fun stuff.
Well, that'll be the next, I guess, question answered. Once, let's say the body decides, yeah, we're going to do this. Great, we'll figure out the cost to operate. I'm a big fan of being able to maintain and operate whatever it is you're going to build, and not walking away from the asset and hoping that it just kind of works out. I think there's some deliberation that needs to happen about that. I think there's a responsibility to cover costs as much as possible and not lose sight of the fact that this is a community amenity. So, the goal is let's break even, and if you can make money doing it, that's a bonus. Maintain and operate what you have and to preserve the investment. So, obviously the big item would be a facility and what does it cost to run. I think there's some performative stuff about fields and how they need to be taken care of. I think that's kind of been figured out already, but that would be the next item. What's the operating cost of this thing? What's it going to cost?
So AJ,
do you have a feel? We'd be, guessing.
We'd have to run actual energy calculations even for the building. I think that would be one of the moving parts.
How long is it open? How many hours a day is it open?
Yeah, there's
how many people are in there? Who's in charge of it? Who's the supervisor of it? How are those costs taken care of? And
that's easily hundreds of thousands of dollars a year.
You would think so with the I don't know, 16 or 15 to $22 million asset. It better be. The worst thing you could do is spend all that money and not take care of it.
Right.
There's also opportunities to make a little bit of money to offset some of that. So with the leagues and stuff, renting those spaces, using those for either training, tournaments, those type of things, there's opportunities there, right? You also have opportunities, you have the cafe or the concessions, that's a opportunity to offset some of those costs, as well as the commercial space that's built into that. You could have a vendor space in there as well. So there's opportunities, I think, to kind of offset some of that. But like, as Matt alluded to, a pro forma definitely needs to be the next kind of discussion to kind of see how that works out and if that's something that you want to move forward with.
What would the impact be on the Babe Ruth? Because right now we have 5 separate fields that you have 5 games going at the same time.
But we don't. Babe Ruth's program is different than Little League.
Yeah.
So that's one of the things that was considered here is that they have a standard for Cal Ripken and that age group, and they have a standard for Babe Ruth. These 2 fields, or the large field that can be split into the 2 Cal Ripken fields, meet those standards. The 3 fields along Main Street don't meet the standards of the Cal Ripken program. You can play around with fence heights and things like that, but realistically, the fields that are proposed here, in those organizations, there's only 2 currently on site that fully meet the rules and regulations of that organization.
So what would then be the age range of the kids that can play baseball?
Cal Ripken is 4 to 12, and Babe Ruth is 13 plus.
Okay.
So AJ, I have a question for you. Then, assuming, and I'm not assuming, the redevelopment, this is the Redevelopment Commission property, but we know that we can't operate that because we can't, right? So how, you're talking about, you probably need a sports director in there. If that's going to be busy year round, you're going to need some kind of a manager, you're going to need a staff. What would that be a standalone thing, or would that fall under the parks?
Well, as it stands right now, and I think Jonathan tried to allude to it earlier, we just agreed to enter into a contract for maintenance of the field at $62,000 or $86,200. That's just the mowing. We've approved contracts for demo, for new construction, for the new roof. We by purchasing it, the city's redevelopment commission incurred costs straight away. And to keep it to that standard, we should expect that it's never going to get lower than what we received as a bid in 2022. As we go forward, and I think Matt alluded to this is an investment in our community. It's an investment of an amenity. For many years, this commission has stepped up and built street departments, built fire stations, remodeled city halls, changed university centers into police stations. Those are all the needs of our community, and I think that this commission stepped up over the years and met those needs. This is the time to now think about the great thing for our community, that investment. I think that's what I would say about this. I would then say, Mayor and Commissioners, the pro forma is a very important next step. Obviously, considering the amount of money that we're even talking about here, diving into the pro forma, getting into much greater detail on the program, getting much greater into detail about lease rates in some of this space, to really look at the league programming that could be offered. Right now, I think at this point, from a financial aspect, the engineers and designers put together a cost estimate, and we asked Carl Sender with Senator Dalton to present kind of what could the city's redevelopment commission handle from a bonding standpoint in terms of what's left in our TIF district and what might be available. So we've done that at this point. There's also this, and there's also a phased approach to this that could be considered as well. And that's why the team presented it in 4 distinct quadrants. There's an outdoor program to this space, and then there's that indoor component to the space. And it was strategically designed so that if the commission were only comfortable, maybe in the short term, going ahead with the outdoor program, that the outdoor program could get built, and that fourth quadrant could remain what it is. And what it would remain today be the parking lot, the concession lot. You could go completely the opposite direction and maintain the 2 natural grass fields to the north and build the indoor component and possibly the plaza hardcore space. So the plan it also has the ability to be kind of a kit and do it in different pieces, depending on the comfort level of the commission, whether it were to bond a project of this size, or if you felt that cash flow might be the way to go. These would be the different financial opportunities you might have to implement this program, whether it's straight away and fast, or if you were wanting to be more deliberate and run it out over the course of 2 or 3 or 4 years, depending on ultimately how you wanted to finance. Ultimately, if this is something you wanted to move forward with, how quickly would you want to deliver it to the community? But Mayor, and I think all of you, a real important question on pro forma. We would really have to get into program, really talk about how that would work, and then really begin to better understand through even some local examples, what would it take to bring on a lead director, a building director, additional staff, so on and so forth.
Yeah, I didn't mean for it to sound cavalier about, yeah, you got to pay for what goes on inside. And honestly, the expense of building your asset is really not what's concerning to me. You either have the cash flow to do the project or you do not. That's kind of easy, at least in my view. What always becomes the challenge is maintaining the asset, and that means what's it cost to operate, who's going to do it, how long are they going to do it, how comfortable they are having that. And that's really where it's just always a shame when communities build things and they just don't take care of the asset. And you can see it. You don't have to go far. It happens.
No, we know it all too close to home.
No.
And so, Mayor, and again, I think we've all talked about this. Again, I think that we're all very reluctant to move forward unless we have very firm footing that we can answer that specific question of what Matt alluded to. And that comes down to the other successes that are required of this commission now and in the future, is we need to get out of the land holding game. And we need to activate assessed valuation and activate sale of real estate so that when it makes its way into the general fund of the Redevelopment Commission, this commission can continue to help Portage now provide that amenity as opposed to historically providing the necessity.
Mr. Senator, do you know what our current bonding capacity is right now?
Well, I did run numbers as AJ suggested at 15 million, and so with funding issuance costs and the debt service reserve, it was like at 17 million. There was still some room that we could increase a little bit further. I didn't go to the top end, but certainly I could report back on that. The thing to remember, we've had expansion areas in the allocation area, and those will start to expire. And so, we wait too many years to do this project, it may be a smaller dollar amount. So it's kind of a complicating factor a little bit. We have to look at each of those areas when they expire and maximize the revenues that we have right now. But in the pro forma that I was running, I tried to maintain always 150% TIF revenue to total combined debt service for each year.
So then if we decided to, at some point in time, to bond the whole project, we're done bonding anything else, for the most part?
Without additional growth in the life of the TIF.
And that still doesn't include and really answer my question of, is this a standalone thing or is this a part thing? How is the O&M, the staff, all of that going to be paid for? Because we can build it, but if we can't staff it and we can't get the right amount of people in there, so, and I don't know where those dollars are going to come from. So yes, I hear what you're saying, Jonathan. Your programs will bring money in, but will it you know, you want to put something wonderful like this up and then you can't maintain it because you don't have the influx of dollars.
Yeah.
And then whose jurisdiction is that under?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that, like we've been talking about, I think that's the next step. Kind of taking what we know here as that program, analyzing that and going through that whole phase of pro forma, deciding who is the end operator, those type of things. So,
And, you know, after you know, we have a reasonable understanding of the operation cost, and then a deliberative discussion has to be made with, you know, who's gonna pay? Is this solely the responsibility of the Redevelopment Commission? Is this a city function? Is it a partnership? You know, who owns the asset? Who's in charge of the asset? All those fun things that happen when you get something new going. But you know, that's the responsible approach. How do we get to the end of this and figure out, is this something that we're going to maintain? Period. And I guess if there's you know, that's some focus that needs to happen. That would be, you know, our recommendation on the next step is let's figure those out. Let's figure out the answers to the best of our ability, and then, you know, reach out and ask those questions of whether it's redevelopment or whether it's a city. Hey, here's what we think this is going to cost to operate. You know, again, I'm always very careful of saying, you know, gee whiz, we're going to make a bunch of money doing this. I don't think that's, we're not, honestly. If we do,
but we can't go in the hole either.
Well, no.
Are there other facilities like this that are similar size that we could kind of see what their costs are? Or?
Sure, and we have some examples, and that's what AJ was talking about. We're going to look at some regional models of this and how they work and what happens and how much cash flow do they make and who runs them and all of that stuff to help inform us of what are some good models about that. But you know, like I said, it's not, the idea is, when I say it's not to make money, it's not to lose money. It's to break even. So when you can develop a community asset that you can break even in, you're doing better than any park that you have, because those cost you money and you don't charge for them and you have no revenue stream. This creates a revenue stream that helps it to be sustainable. I'm not saying it's going to cover the cost and you're going to make cash. I don't believe that's this kind of thing. It's a community amenity first and foremost, and I think if the commission and the council treat it as such, I think you'll arrive at a reasonable commitment to fund it.
And it can go both ways in terms of tax revenue. I mean, we put this in, commercial development comes in, that's more tax revenue into the city.
Correct.
Development Commission. So it's not just the revenue coming into this facility.
Oh, no, I mean, you think about what else might happen. I mean, and the other things in your redevelopment commission. We had a meeting to discuss more property disposition and sales. And what happens when that happens? You get more assessed value, more revenues come into the city and through the redevelopment commission, and more funding is available. So it's part of your asset portfolio that the city has, would end up being that. You know, like any of the other public buildings you built. But I think, as AJ pointed out, you had necessity, and now you have opportunity here.
Any other questions by the commissioners?
Oh, we could be here all night.
Yeah.
well, I'll order pizza.
So I guess, AJ, the next step is, if there's a next step.
Well, I think tonight, Mayor, you know, we accept the master plan. I don't really even know if a formal action is needed. It's a planning document, a guiding document. And then I would suggest a little level of deliberation amongst yourselves. I mean, this is the first time you've seen it. Take some time to digest it. Let's ask questions. Let's talk around and think about it, and go from there. It's a tremendous opportunity. As we all know, that as evidenced by today's meeting, we spent some money, and this commission is committing to downtown and to making it all it can be. And this is that sort of bigger next question. So I don't, again, I think that Attorney Witten would agree there's no real need for a formal action. And I think that, you know, within the next 30 days is to think about it and talk. This is a serious investment, and it requires serious deliberation. So to spend 30 days, 60 days, 90 days thinking through it, is fine. And as you all know, we have HWC under contract. We have Carl Sunder under contract. And if we want to talk through different pro formas and different scenarios, that is something that we absolutely can do, so that if this body wants to move forward with a decision, you'll be armed with the best information that's available.
Well, and I don't think we bought the ball fields to have them sit there. I mean, that wasn't our purpose for purchasing them. We wanted to do something. It's a beautiful plan. We just have to figure out the rest of it.
Yeah.
Well, we'll help you execute whatever level you want, and I think there's there's time to deliberate, and if there's any questions, send them to AJ, and we can mull it over, and whatever level this needs to end up at HWC or Sender and Company, we'll get it answered, so that you can make an informed next decision. I mean, I think step one was, if we wanted to build all this, could we finance it? And I think you heard, yes, probably. And then the next logical question seems to be, how are we going to operate it and pay for it? And I think that's the level we're at. If we're going to do it, then how do you pay for it? And I think we're just, we need to get those answers. And then, answer any other questions that you might have.
Okay, well, thank you very
you.
much, guys.
Yeah, thank you.
I would love to see that be over there for sure. So we have another thing to come before the commission. I think AJ, the parking lot, did you want to bring?
Oh, yes, I do, Mayor. Thank you. You're the one who sent me the note. Yes, yeah, I felt like middle school for a sec. Commissioner, Mayor, Commissioners, Sandy and I had an opportunity to talk, with the parking lot, and we asked the commission to take that bid under advisement. With some further deliberation, I left the room to check budget and see where we were. I think we would be prepared to move forward on that if it was the pleasure of the commission. Of course, contingent on staff and legal review of that. If we can get that review done quickly and move forward, we're fairly confident. Again, can never be 100% confident that this is something that could be delivered really before the summer season out there. And as this plan is represented, what we're talking about is this parking lot. That's first of all right here,
right,
and then it was the mirroring of the parking at the police station.
Mm-hmm.
So if it is the pleasure of the commission, staff would ask you reconsider taking the bid for the off-street parking under advisement, and consider a motion to approve a contingent on staff and legal review. The apparent low bidder is Egoff Coates Excavation, my apologies, in the amount of $274,125.50, and an award of alternate one in the amount of $17,710.50.
I will make a motion to award, subject to staff and legal review. With alternate one? With alternate one.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Hope someone
I
seconds
have
it.
a motion and a second. We've been here too long. All in favor signify by saying aye. Do you have
Aye.
questions?
Yeah, question.
I see
Was
questions in your face.
part of the landscaping, taking care of the landscaping of the parking lots? So one of the bids for the Portage Police Department landscaping?
The joint bid for the Founders Square landscaping includes the deconstruction of the landscaping that's currently behind fence at Portage Police Department. If we're moving ahead on all these projects, we would likely be borrowing material and using it as landscaping in other parts. Is that the question?
Yeah, I think one of the specs had removal of trees and replanting some stuff over where the new parking by the police department would be?
Yes, sir. Yeah, that's
Okay.
correct.
All right.
Yes, yes.
Any more questions, Greg? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
I guess I do have a question. How many spaces is that adding?
That area, I believe
40?
47, Sandy, ultimately.
47 or 40, yeah.
We believe
In the
it's-
lot, not including
in the
IPD?
lot, and then the mirror of the parking that's in the police station, like maybe an additional 18?
I think it's 13, 26 total.
Sounds good.
Can I have another business too? At the current lot where the baseball fields are, can we get the street department out there to restripe it?
We will ask.
Right now, there's very
Barely?
Yeah.
Okay, we will ask.
Or Colin can be there with a paintbrush.
I do not think that's going to happen, but
We need a motion.
So we haven't approved the first motion, so are we all good with the first
Yeah.
motion?
yes.
Okay, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Is there any other business to come before the commission? If not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you, everyone.